excellent disguise, said the bogle. He'll never know it's you. It is rather cunning, isn't it? I think it becomes me. Well, don't push it. It's a good disguise. So, how do we do this? How does this work? I don't really know. We've had the approval, of course, but how the process works, don't ask me. These time things can be tricky. Sometimes they have a mind of their own. But we'll be able to take him back. Theoretically, yes, that is how the past functions. But again, I never tried it myself. We'll see, I suppose. And we'll be able to get back when we want to, I assume. But really, what's the difference? You of all people had nothing to lose. I suppose you're right. Well, wish me luck. I do, old pimple, I do. And if you need me, he said, nestling once more into Marley's right ear, I'll be right in here. Who the hell are you? Scrooge was not having a good night. He sat bolt upright in bed, staring at the new apparition that floated in the air before him. Get out of my house, he said, inching his hand toward the poker. Get up, old man. We're going on a little trip. I've had enough of spirits for one evening. You come any closer, I'll beam you with this poker. The little spirit lifted his little finger and sent the poker floating back to its resting place beside Scrooge's fire. Floating in the air above his bed was a ragamuffin street rat, a boy, filthy and tattered, liberally freckled, missing a tooth, with a shock of red hair that hung down over one eye, and his grin was irresistible. Scrooge resisted. Who are you? I am the ghost of Christmas past, Governor. Long past. No, your past, you old fart. Cheeky little imp, what the devil brings you here? Your welfare. My welfare, is it? Well, I think a night of unbroken rest and quiet would. Your reclamation, then. Rise and walk with me. Rise and walk with me, said the bogle from inside Marley. Christmas past here. Where the devil did that come from? I don't know, it just came to me. Well, it's good, keep it up. Rise, but spirit, I am a mere mortal. That's your problem, Governor. He grasped the old man's hand and lifted. Wailing his vertigo and lumbago, Scrooge rose several feet above his bed. Where are you taking me? It's winter, I'm liable to catch my death. Unheeding, the spirit led him to the window, opened it with a grand gesture, and the two of them sailed out into the night sky. All around them, the night sky was as brilliant as a jeweler's shop and filled with song, for every star sang with all its might, old constellations and newborn. The sweep of stars in exaltation against the dark. Look around you, old man, said the spirit, as he threw back his head and whooped and laughed as they sailed through the sky. Scrooge was breathless, paralyzed with fear. But then he began to yell too. It was a low yell that began in terror, stark terror, at seeing London far, far below him. And then the yell became a demand. I demand that you put me down. And then a plea, please put me down. And then the yell turned to crabby outrage as Scrooge felt more and more himself. And then the yell became, wonder of wonders, a giggle, and then a laugh, and then a great whooping laugh, and then a great whee as they echoed and pealed and soared through the star-bespangled sky. Suddenly, all around them, the stars began to whirl, clustering and blowing like snowflakes in the wind, whirling snowflakes, whirling snow. A bright winter's morning on the countryside, the air a liquid crystal, and every branch and bush and fence post and wagon rut sparkled with 1,000 diamonds. Do you know this place? Knew it? Oh, I was a boy here. The whirling snowflakes obscured the scene again, and then, Papa, Papa, said the little voice timidly, opening the great door to his father's study, a dim brown cave-like room that smelled of books and leather. What the hell is this? Something the matter, old bean? This isn't Scrooge's past. Papa, are you there?
Well, you said a gruff voice thickly.
Seated at the only table in the room was a man, the low-hanging light illuminating only a glass and a half-empty bottle beside it. It's Mother. She's called for you, Papa. She's sick again, Papa.
Go away, he said, turned his back on the boy and poured another glass.
But she's sick again, Papa. And she said that, "I get out!" I said. He picked up the little boy and tossed him out of the hole. Thunder in the door shut behind him. The boy, dazed and hurt, stifled his sobs and heard the lock shut hard. Well, I'm not quite sure if this isn't Scrooge's past. What is it? It's mine. How did this happen? We were supposed to be visiting Scrooge's past, not mine. I don't really know. I'm quite as surprised as you are. You tricked me. You knew about... Well, I won't put up with it. How do we get out of here? I don't think we can, old bean. I think once you started this thing, you ride it out. I think that we're stuck. Well, I won't put up with it. He waved his arm and time froze. What did you do? The little boy was frozen, like a statue, immobile, a single tear floating above the ground. You said that we could stop time. Well, I just did it. You can't do this. Watch me! Marvelous, said the bogle, floating once more in front of his face like a tiny fury. Well, I hope you like the view. I like it just fine. Good, because you're going to be looking at it for a long, long time. Novel way to spend eternity. It's a trifle dull, though. You mean? Yes, of course. What do you think? We're stuck here, too. Time started up again. The little boy's tears splashed onto the floor. It was bad enough the first time. Mama? Mama? Said the little boy, sobbing, red, his face streaked from crying. But the tall, silent men carried her off, carried her away from him. No one explained to him why she didn't wake up or speak or smile at him again. But he knew. Then having to get dressed in clothes that were too tight and shoes that hurt his feet, walking, stumbling, being dragged beside his father behind the black carriage with the box in it. And people's faces staring, hats off. His father's face set in stone, walking behind the carriage and the box. And then the rain, and watching as they lowered the box into a hole in the ground, and the sound, the hollow sound of the dirt being shoveled on top of it. And then walking with his father silently home, his father's hand hurting, crushing his little one know it hurts, old thing, but there's nothing to be done for it. Please, can we go back to hell? It wasn't his bad. The bogle floated down and patted his hand with a tiny hand. There, old thing. There. So Scrooge, lost in a world of his own memories, watched scene after scene from his own past. Marley and the bogle saw scenes that Scrooge didn't see. Grimmer scenes that burned like a brand. They watched as the silent boy was sold into apprenticeship at the old man's warehouse. The boy was friendless, save for the occasional harried kindness of Mr. Fezziwig or Mr. Marley. Not so glum, if you please. What will it take to make you smile? Eh? A toffee? 2. You drive a hard bargain. Sleeping alone under the counter, living in terror of the bullying, the hissed threats and the mean pinches, the cruel tricks of the older apprentice, Dick Wilkins. Give me those. You know what you get if you tell. I saw what Wilkins did to you. Startled, Marley turned to see the new boy, Scrooge, was it? Was standing beside him. He was lean as a whippet and twice as sharp, with a gleam in his eye, not unlike his own. I know how we can get even. And with those words, the partnership of Scrooge and Marley was born. Marley watched their life together unfold like some blighted gray flower. Scrooge and Marley always off in a corner, whispering, "It's an unfair world, Mr. Marley, but that's how it is." And seeing as that's how it is, I'm determined to be the one stepping on, the one getting stepped. Marley couldn't look away. He saw the firm of Scrooge and Marley, Fezziwigs no more. He watched the new owners as they went out into the world like a pair of ravening wolves growing rich off the misfortunes of others. He watched the two of them grow old together, old in mistrust and suspicion, in kept and whispered secrets, and in minute and exacting division of the spoils. Marley watched very intently indeed as Scrooge made his move to take over the business. When the once living Marley found out about this, he confronted Scrooge, but Scrooge smiled with a yellow-toothed smile and said that it was none of his business. Or rather, none of his business anymore. Marley seized a ruler and in a spasm of fury raised it above his head. Ah! Yeah. His mouth went funny all of a sudden. He forgot what he was doing. He dropped the ruler. He wandered back to his office. He sat at his desk for a long time, barely moving, just rocking a little, staring at a place on the wall where nothing was. When When 6 o'clock came, he went to the safe, moving with all jerks and hitches like a battered wind-up toy. He took out one of the cash boxes, and he let the coins run through his fingers like water, glassy-eyed, awed, fixed to his jaw. And then he crammed as much as he could into his pockets and his hands, and still moving like a broken machine, he wandered out of the counting house, leaving a trail of monies behind him. There was a stone platform at the end of the street where politicians used to speak. Marley hitched himself up the steps to the platform, eyes fixed, jaws clenched in a terrible rictus grin, and when he reached the top, he whirled like a shattered doll, hurling coins away from him angrily, furiously, making odd choking sounds in the back of his throat, barking at the sky. No good! No good! None! 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 And then he crammed coins into his mouth and, gagging on them, spewed them out again, wet mouthfuls of coins on the cobblestone. Scrooge was horrified and called the constable. He, the constable, and Cratchit subdued Marley, who was staring at his withered old hands and saying, "Nothing left, empty, never was." His mouth moved silently for a while, and then he whispered, "God." Cratchit walked him home because he couldn't remember where he lived. Put him to bed, from which he never arose. And Scrooge spent the rest of the evening scouring the cobblestones for coins that the children had missed, not too proud to crow, not caring that others laughed. He found a couple, and he pocketed them. When last Scrooge saw Marley, he was called to the deathbed by Marley's housekeeper. Scrooge stood at the doorway of Marley's bedroom, watching his former partner struggle to breathe his wretched last. Marley opened his eye, stared at Scrooge, recognizing him surely, but said nothing, just glared at him accusingly. Scrooge looked right back, bold as brass, and he watched as the last choking, gasping came, and Marley's breath was finally stopped. Then he put on his gloves and his hat, for he never removed his coat, and went out to have his dinner. You remember it now? Marley didn't move. He'd seen the sum of his life in a few moments and was surprised to see how small it was. Countless tiny cruelties, vicious little economies, mean, pathetic little triumphs. He looked down at the chains in his hands. I deserved these. The bogle nodded. Then his hands clenched, and Marley became white-hot with fury. And Scrooge, that wretch, he did this to me! Well, he can go to hell. He can rot in hell beside me for eternity. I'll be damned if I lift my littlest finger to help him now. I'll be damned if I will. Rather, said the bogle gently, you'll be damned if you don't. Don't damn yourself to spite him, Marley, me darling. He's your one chance to save yourself, and you best take it. No, I'm done with him! I see. Well, perhaps you're right. They were back in Scrooge's bedroom. Old Scrooge sat weeping in his chair, weeping over what he'd seen with the ghost of Christmas past. And then the bogle charged the old man's head like a hornet, taunting and laughing viciously. Oh, fool! You should have thought! Cry louder, louder! That's right! How does it feel? What are you doing? Oh, you should have thought. You should have paid better attention, old fool! Leave him alone. But he's the one. I know what he did. Leave him alone. When they finally left, Scrooge had cried himself to sleep. They were perched once more on the dome of the great cathedral. Why did you stop me? You hate him, don't you? You got every right to after what he did to you. I don't know, said Marley. Yes, you do. You just leave me in peace for a while. I suppose you're right, as usual. This is your last look at the city and these stars, now that you decided to let the old cold sore rot in his own mess. You think your chains are heavy, oh, wait till you see what they got in store for old Scrooge. Once they get a hold of him. Do you mind? Mind what? Would you mind plugging up this seemingly endless flow of chat? Surprised and offended, the bogle did. For a while, the two of them just watched the stars in silence. Shooting star. If you must know, I felt sorry for him. Oh, excuse me, were you addressing me? Oh, stop it. It's just that as bad as he no doubt is and getting what he no doubt deserves, he just seemed so vulnerable, unhappy, disgusting, human. He seemed so human just then, weeping over his lost love, his wasted life. Like all of us, somehow. What you were doing just didn't seem fair. I see, said the bogle. But the bogle smiled just then, but a private little smile that Marley didn't see. The game's not over yet. You've chipped the glacier, you cracked the shell. You made him feel something. Probably for the first time since his voice broke. I'm listening. Now, to simplify a terrifically complicated metaphysical theory, his heart's open a crack. All you need to do now is put something inside of it. A liberal dosage of Christmas cheer and your own free, old chap. I suppose you have some idea how to do this. Oh, yes, I do, but don't worry, it's not like the other. That's a relief. Now, the other was just activating the basic life review mechanism, but this is something, or rather someone, with a life on their own terms. What do you mean? Well, the Ghost of Christmas Past was a wonderful idea. It was a wonderful part. You played it very well, blah, 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 blah. But there really is a Ghost of Christmas Present. I don't like the sound of this. You're over the worst of it, Marley, me darling. The rest is pure pleasure. Rise and walk with me! Scrooge had been awake for quite some time when he heard laughter coming from the next room. From the room beyond, a rosy gold light spilled out from under the door. Come in and know me better, man! Fat chance of that. but even under his blanket Scrooge could tell that his room had been filled with light. He poked his pointy nose over the covers. An immense shining face filled the room. Scrooge fainted. Marley was alone, waiting for what or who he didn't know. And suddenly he began to feel warm, very warm, as if he were basking in front of a great fire on a bitter winter's night. And then he heard music faintly, and then he felt the closeness of something immense moving in the air beside him, and then the spirit entered him. Laughter rippled out of Marley like a wave, healing and making things grow. Not only the people that it touched, but the winds, the grasses, the waters, the very stars laughed. The joy inside him was stampeding out of control, changing him. Why didn't I know this? Why wasn't I told? Said the stars. He felt things falling away from him, old ideas too small for him now. Now that he knew what he knew. Marley, are you in there? For Marley had been engulfed, transformed into the ghost of Christmas present. Wake up, you pathetic old scab. Leave me alone. Not tonight, old man. You have reviled me and my kind for too many years. Come. And the two of them traveled, Marley enfolded in the spirit's great heart. And Scrooge and Marley saw many things that night, things that they had avoided seeing or forgotten that they had seen. In the laughter of two old women, in friends and neighbors coming together to share grief and burden, in a parent teaching a child how to tie a knot, and in a Bible reader telling the story of how on a certain night a child was born and a star heralded its coming. And Scrooge learned much. But it was Jacob Marley, inside the spirit, seeing with his eyes, feeling with his heart, who learned the most. For Scrooge was changed by what he saw. But Marley was changed by what he was. They ended up at the Cratchits' meager Christmas dinner. Amidst the merriment, what Marley noted most was the constant hovering concern over the littlest boy. And then he heard a whisper, "Behold!" He felt another change in his eye, and what he saw was this: a golden cord of light bound the family together, heart to heart, from one to the other, and back again. So the whole family was bound together in a nest of shining gold. And Marley saw that he too was a part of it, that the golden light traveled from him and returned, and that all were bound together. "Spirit," said Scrooge, "will the littlest boy, the one with the withered leg, will he live?" "If he be like to die, he'd better do it, and decrease the surplus population." They were on a wind-swept street when the two skeletal children, the figures of want and ignorance, crawled like roaches from beneath the spirit's robes. Have they no refuge? Have they no resources? Are there no prisons? Are there no workhouses? spirit vanished, and Scrooge was alone. Scrooge stamped his feet on the cobblestone. I am too old! I cannot change! You ask too much! You might as well kill me! That at least would be more merciful. And then he was gone. Where did he go? Said Marley. I don't know, said the Bogle, but we'd better find him. Look! From the east, the first grey light of morning. Not much time now until the cocks crow. They were back in Scrooge's bedroom. A tall figure, all in black, robed and hooded, stood at the foot of Scrooge's bed. Am I in the presence of the ghost of Christmas yet to come? Oh, Marley, that is truly terrifying. Where the devil did you come up with an idea like that? I was about to ask you the same question. You mean that's not you? I thought it was you. Well, if I'm here and you're there, then who? Oh dear. There's only one spirit that looks like that. You've seen him before. Lead on, spirit, lead on. The night is waning fast, and it is precious time to me. I know. Lead on. Has he come for old Scrooge, then? It appears so. Then we never could have saved him. We might as well follow him. And so the two of them followed Scrooge and the Angel of Death on their final tour. The old man wept to see that no one cared. His housekeeper had stolen everything. His office was closed for a respectable day or two and then reopened with Cratchit at a much larger desk. His funeral was unattended. Finally, they made their way to an ill-kept graveyard, and a cheap little headstone announced the final resting place of Scrooge's earthly remains. Poor wretch, he's only getting what he deserves. Hear me, spirit, I'm not the man I was. Marley watched with an awed expression. The Angel of Death held out his hand for Scrooge. The darkness behind him coalesced into a whirlpool of blackness. He held out his hand for Scrooge. Marley stepped forward. What are you doing? I do pity the old man, begging for another chance. Let's give it to him. Marley raised his hand, time froze, and he vanished. Then there were two Scrooges, mirror images kneeling in front of each other. Old wretch, said the newer Scrooge to his astonished twin, I never liked you before, and I don't like you any better now. Marley, don't do this! You don't know what it'll mean! We all of us, each of us deserve a chance to do better, a chance to change. Well, here's yours. He put his hand to the old man's chest. Remember this. Remember that someone gave you another chance. If I can change, well, and then he shoved hard and the old man vanished. Then there was only one Scrooge kneeling before his death. The Angel of Death held out his hand to the duplicate Scrooge. The wind whirled about him, blowing his wispy hair into his face, but he stood calmly, trembling a little, and he walked calmly to the edge of the vortex. Marley! He turned to the Bogle. Goodbye. And then he put his trembling hand into the angel's outstretched one. And the two of them vanished. Marley! But the bogle was alone in the graveyard, and in the distance he heard the sound of the cock's crow. Scrooge awoke on the floor of his bedroom with a feeling of unreasoning joy. He went to the window. Boy, what day is it? Well, it's Christmas Day, sir. The bogle watched sadly. The old man's good humour might have been infectious had he not been feeling a bit lonely just then. And then Marley popped back in. Marley, where did you go? What happened? Marley grinned. Well, what could they do? I was already dead. I gather I'm in for it when we get back, though. Oh, look at the old man dance. I'm as light as a feather. I'm as happy as an angel. I'm as giddy as a drunken man. And the two of them watched Scrooge, dressed in his Christmas best, as he made his way to the counting house. Oh, surely he's not going to work today. But Scrooge came running out of the counting house, down to the stone platform at the end of the street. When he reached the top of it, he whirled like a dancer, casting coins away from him. Merry Christmas to all of you. There's a great many back payments in this, I assure you. And then Scrooge knelt. Jacob Marley, heaven and you and the Christmas time be praised for this. I say it on my knees, oh Jacob. On my knees. Don't mention it, old thing. You're quite welcome, I'm sure. Well, I'd call that a complete and willing change of heart, wouldn't you? Marley just nodded, having to clear his throat just then. Well, time to face the music. I believe so, old crampot. Mr. Marley, we had said that you would be brought to account at a later date. He turned to the bogle. You, sir, were charged with guiding this soul and shepherding his development. And in that regard, sir, in that regard, you have acquitted yourself and your charge satisfactorily, and I am empowered to issue you a promotion. The bogle began to glow with a blinding white light, and inside the light was no longer a pinched little copy of Marley, but a beautiful young man with great, lovely wings. Thank you, sir. Mr. Marley, you have fulfilled your contract admirably. And as per the terms of the contract, all debts are now forgiven, all bonds broken. And here the shackles opened, and the chains fell. Bravo, Marley, me darling. The bogle went to the record keeper. Where do I go now? The record keeper led him to a window and pointed. I believe it's about there. I see it. Goodbye for now, my dear. It's been grand. And the bogle flew out the window, waving goodbye. Marley waved back, and he was surprised to see his friend go up and up and up and stop, and a new star shone in the eastern sky. Oh my. Congratulations on a job well done, Mr. Marley. Where do I go now? Anywhere you like. You're free. Marley went to the office door, opened it, and it closed behind him. The universe was spread out before him like the most beautiful starlit night. He looked at it for a long time, a long, long time. Then he went back to the office door, knocked quietly. Yes, I was thinking, sir. Could you use any extra help around here? It's just that I got more joy out of helping old Scrooge and seeing him changed and happy than I can remember in my entire life. And so I was wondering if... Delighted, sir! We always have an opening for someone of your abilities, and we were hoping that you'd be interested. Marley knew then that he was home, that he found a home and a work that would keep him busy and happy for a long, long time. If you'll step this way, Mr. Marley, I have a project that could use some of your expert intervention. Yeah. But that's another story. May we all find our way home, as Marley did, and the Bogle did, and even as old Scrooge did, eventually. May our lives bring joy and light to those around us. And like the Bogle, may we bless the darkness as bright and shining stars. And God bless us, everyone.